Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unblocked Creators. Today we talk to Donna May, a painter and writer from Canada, who also happens to be my mother. In this episode we talk about art as therapy. We talk about how to allow one's inner artist to become free of the cages of self-doubt. We talk about birth, life, and death, the pains and illness that accompany this life, what it means to face the grief of loss, the death of loved ones, and the fact of our own mortality. We talk about chronic pain, addiction, and the nature of healing, both physical and spiritual. The paintings you'll see in the background, if you're watching the video version on YouTube, are of course painted by her. More of her visual art and also her writings can be seen at donnamaypaints.ca. We'll get started in just a moment, but first an update about the Creative Wayfinder. If you don't know yet, the Creative Wayfinder is an 8-week-long program for creative people who are looking for a way out of the exhausting rat race and the many frustrations of the artist's life. Don't be a starving artist. This is about connecting to the source of your creative power, an initiation based on such tools as depth psychology, shadow work, flow state science, and, in essence, aims to accomplish what therapy is meant to do in a fraction of the time. Participants are overcoming procrastination, self-doubt, perfectionism, and a general lack of creative direction. The link is in the description of this episode, so I won't ramble on about it now, but here's one testimonial that a current participant, Matt Buffa, sent me after the Week 7 live call.
Jesse, I gotta say, I think this is the way. This is the way to go. This kind of art therapy, open space. Like, that was cathartic. Just listening to, Brian and Keaton speak. Yeah, food for thought. I think these kind of conversations really matter. I'm really glad to be part of this. I know I was a bit hesitant to kind of commit to it, but I'm very glad I did. And it just goes to show you that even, all the techniques and, that theory and all this doesn't replace the human connection and sharing your own story and hearing other people's stories.
Amen to that. So if you're ready to become the kind of creator you were always meant to be, click the link in the description. Registration for the Creative Wayfinder closes at midnight on August 24th, 2025. Sign up by the end of August 4th for 25% off and a bonus intro call before the program begins. There's room for 10 participants. We'll meet on Monday evening at 7 p.m. Pacific Central Time, starting August 25th. Now here's my interview with artist Donna May. Hi, Donna May.
Hi, Jesse James.
Are you nervous?
A little bit, yes.
Well,
I am.
so am I.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, always publicly sharing my mind and thoughts. And
You don't appear nervous when I see you speaking.
Well, I suppose there's been some training with public speaking, so I've learned how to stop my knees from shaking. So, who are you?
I am the mother of Jesse James.
Ah.
And I am an artist. Feels uncomfortable saying that because I still don't fully believe that I am, but I've always wanted to be, so why not be one?
Yeah. What does it mean? What do you think what it means to be an artist.
It means that I have things inside me that I want to be able to portray in an art form through writing and painting. And it's just always been there. I know it. And maybe it's like that for most people. I don't know, but I guess not. When I think about some of the people that I know who would have no desire to create that way.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as I've known you, it seems like you've had that desire. What about, I'm going to take you back to a few different eras. We'll go back to more early Jessie, before I can remember, and we'll go back to early Donna May, to the earliest you can remember. So what do you remember of the creative impulse in your childhood?
I can think of a couple of times specifically, but one time, I think I was about 6 or 7, and I found this mud hole, but it was actually clay, and somehow I knew it was clay. And I was so excited because I could take this mud and actually form it into something. And so I made a teacup and a saucer, and I was so proud of it. And I didn't know what I was doing, obviously. I didn't know it had to dry for a particular length of time, or that normally it would go in a kiln. But I formed this teacup and saucer, and I let it dry for a while, and then I found some paint and a mud puddle, and I remember, and I think my mom actually took video of it with our Super 8 camera, and me crouched down at this mud puddle in our driveway with some paint and painting this teacup and saucer that in my mind was absolutely beautiful, or it was going to be. And I know it didn't turn out quite how I expected in my mind, but I do remember how good it felt creating just completely by myself with, I think that was probably the first time I felt flow when it came to creating something. Nobody told me how to do it. There was no plan. It just happened. And then another time, I remember I was in elementary school, and I always wanted to start clubs with my friends. And we started this little club, and I just wanted to sort of be the teacher, and I wanted to be the art teacher. And so I started drawing all these little love signs. They said love in big bubble letters. And I was on my top bunk in my bedroom all night drawing these love signs, and I wanted to sell them, and I wanted to teach the other kids in my club to make them too. And it was a bit of a flop because nobody else wanted to make them and nobody wanted to buy them. But at the time that I was making them, that was the more important part, where I was deep into. It just felt so good. It just felt like that's where I belonged, was making those things.
What were you using to make those?
I think it was just paper and pen and pencil crayons or something. I think I was a little bit older than when I found the clay, but not much.
Like elementary school?
Yes, for sure. Like grade 2.
So did your parents encourage any art?
They certainly didn't discourage it. I don't really remember. I think they were really busy with what they did, but I also did ballet, which of course is an art form. When you're just learning the steps, it doesn't feel so much like an art form. But my mom very much encouraged that. She had to drive me 45 minutes every Saturday to go to ballet class. And then later on, when I decided in grade 12 that I wanted to be a ballerina, she got me into the Edmonton School of Ballet, and I went there and tried. Didn't work out so well. As a ballerina, you have to start when you're really young, and I didn't live in the city. I had some innate or natural talent, more along the lines of flexibility. but I didn't have the kind of training where I lived in a small town that you would need from a really young age to be a ballerina. But I thought I could just jump past all that lifetime of training and just become one. Just not very. And I still have those thoughts. There's an impatience. I want to jump into being an amazing artist, but you have to practice. You have to paint, and write over and over, to be really, really good at it and to produce what you might feel is a masterpiece. So the things that I'm trying to get past are my impatience and my need for approval. I really want to just paint or write for the sake of doing it and go back to how I was when I was a little kid. I was doing those, I was just lost in it. And I think that's the goal.
Okay, so let's jump way forward in time.
Okay.
We'll go back and forth. Way forward in time, recently, you're painting a lot.
Yeah.
So you're rediscovering your creativity. For a while now, you've been painting a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's not go right to the start of that. Let's go just recent. What's driving you? What's keeping you motivated to paint? What's it been like for you lately?
Well, it's been a little hard actually the past few weeks because I've been in a bit of an autoimmune flare-up, and when that happens, my brain kind of goes blank. I have a really hard time getting started. And then even when I'm in the midst of it, I just get kind of lost. I can't focus, that sort of thing. But that's only been maybe for the past month. Before that, it was just when I'm feeling clear-minded, I have my own studio now. I can go into my little studio and I can I can start a lesson. I take a lot of painting lessons, and I can paint for an hour and it feels like 5 minutes.
You seem pretty good today. You doing okay today?
Yeah, actually I think I am doing much better today. Thank you.
Well, that's good, because I was napping when you asked if today was the day to do the podcast, and I wasn't sure. So I'm glad you had the energy to push me forward and have us make it happen. So I remember different stages of childhood. You showing me how to do some watercolor, showing me how to divide a picture into little tiny squares to get the proportions and ratios right to draw and then fill in with watercolor paint. And I remember you always wanting to spend time painting, and there's lots of chapters where life was too busy, or you didn't feel motivated, or you didn't feel like you could. And we can get into the homeschooling as well. Mm-hmm. You chose to homeschool me and my sister for most of our early education, and that allowed us to have more creativity in our educational path than just an hour block of art class at school. Mm-hmm. And it allowed you to share that desire that you had to create, mm-hmm. which for sure got poured into me. So
yeah, and I think a big reason why I started homeschooling was because I felt, even though I did well in school, I felt that I was mostly just being a good girl. I was mostly just following the rules because I'm a rule follower and trying to please everyone else. But I wasn't actually learning. I was memorizing for the test. And I wanted my kids to have a love for learning, and I didn't know how to go about that because I didn't have a love for learning. I knew that I should, and so I tried to teach you guys to love whatever it was you were doing. So most of the time through homeschooling, we were doing what you enjoyed rather than um, what I was supposed to be teaching you. But you somehow learned to read and write and do math and do all the things you were supposed to in way less time. And then you got to really take off with things that you wanted to do. Like you were into videography and um, photography and all kinds of things that you could just delve in deep. And you were really good at that. You were really good at super duper focus.
Yeah, you always have brought up the anecdote of my early childhood playing with Play-Doh in the kitchen. You'd leave me alone for hours.
Yeah, even at 3 years old, you had the attention span of 3 hours with Play-Doh. It was incredible.
I wish I still had it.
Me too. I wish I ever did. Uh, and then I did start taking, like in high school, I took some art, but I never felt like I measured up to the kids that were really good. And so then it just didn't seem like, okay, well, I don't have what they have, so no sense in pursuing that. And then as I was homeschooling more and more, I just felt that need to create. And so I realized I need to take some lessons. So I took some watercolor lessons, and that was good for a while till we moved. But I remember seeing everything differently when I started taking the lessons. Everything was about how the light hit it. And it was so cool to see things so differently. And yeah, I immersed myself into it for a while. And then, with my autoimmune, I would get um, too tired. I couldn't do everything. So those extracurricular things had to be put on the back burner. Then later, you guys grew up and were adults. I started taking another watercolor class. I paid for 10 sessions, and I was painting this from this photograph of your sister jumping on a horse, and it was turning out amazingly. But I couldn't do it on my own. I needed the instructor, and then my dad died in the midst of those lessons, and I couldn't go back. I guess I was grieving, or supposed to be. I was frozen, having one of those kind of reactions. So I never went back, and I held on to that almost completed painting for years. Finally, I just took a picture of it and then threw it out because I could never frame it because it wasn't done. And yeah, it wasn't until years later when I got burnt out from work and ended up sick. I had breast cancer and started on treatment. And during treatment, I took a writing course, and then because I wasn't working anymore, I had some time for this stuff. I took a writing course, and then I started taking painting lessons, and that's how I feel like I started healing from everything, from life. I started feeling comfortable creating, and I had the time for it and the energy for it, and yeah.
So earlier on, you didn't know about your autoimmune condition?
No, I think I probably had it since at least my teens, but I wasn't diagnosed until I was 50 or 45.
And your mom didn't know about hers for a long time?
That's right. Yeah, she was diagnosed when I was an adult too. So yeah, takes a lot from you, and when you're not diagnosed until much later. Well, for me, I wasn't diagnosed until so much later in life that in the meantime I thought, oh, I must be a hypochondriac, or I must be lazy, or there's something not right with me. It was all me. And then when I finally got a diagnosis, I realized, oh, it's not me. There is something.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably a lot of people who are coping with an illness they don't know they have, and coping in ways that are frowned upon, and then you end up ashamed, or and that doesn't help either.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I compared myself to other people that had way more energy. Thought, okay, well, if a person is supposed to do all the things that they're doing and I'm can't even do half, there's something wrong with me mentally, not physically. So you beat yourself up, or I beat myself up, and um, so it takes a lot of healing to recover from something like that.
yeah, well, you've talked to me a little bit about all the pressures of life and work and social demands, perhaps contributing to making you more ill.
Yeah.
And when you got cancer, um, of course, everyone understood now. Oh, Donna has to slow down and not meet all these obligations anymore. She has cancer.
Yes, exactly.
So it's almost like, um, I mean, for me, dealing with pain and dealing with energy issues and in my teenagehood, depression, um, sometimes dealing with pain, I wanted a better story. Like, I wished I could say something happened to my body.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what happened, but it was a mystery, so I never knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew I couldn't do a lot of things that I should be able to theoretically in my 20s. And it took me until just these past few years to be able to give myself that support and just say, oh, it's okay. Like, not everyone has to understand, but here's what you can and can't do right now.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, like 8-hour days on a labor job, not really going to work for my body at
Mm-hmm.
this point. And it's very freeing just to realize that all those opinions don't come from a place of proper context. People don't know.
Yeah, we live in a culture that expects you to push, 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 and be doing something for your whole life that you may not like, just because you have to do that in order to make a living. But there are other ways.
Yeah.
But it takes guts to um, to follow your intuition and find those other ways, and you know, go there.
Yeah. Okay. So first off, and anyone who's looked back on my earlier stuff, my first newsletter, or I recorded it as a podcast, the story of making this, which was commissioned by your brother for you while you were ill.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw some stuff in my woodworking store and thought, oh, I'll have Jesse make something for you. And I wrote the story about how you were the person who really encouraged me to be creative. You told me a lot early on when you noticed I was I had a strength in a certain area. You would encourage that, and you would tell me how creative I am, and show me that was valuable. So I feel so lucky because although I've suffered in life, I've had a lot more freedom than a lot of people, external and internal freedom, to say I'm going to do things my way, and I'm going to explore my curiosities and my interests. And so it still takes courage, but I think most people feel like they're not really allowed to follow their curiosity all that much.
Well, and the interesting thing for us, I think, was I knew kind of what I wanted for my kids, but I was also fighting against cultural norms, and I was fighting against what was ingrained in me. So I was conflicted, going back and forth all the time. So that was probably not that easy for you. I mean, yes, I was trying to encourage you in the way that I kind of intuitively believed, but then I was pulling back due to the conflict of what I was ingrained in me. So, yeah, that was hard and probably made it. I mean, yes, you are grateful for being encouraged, but it wasn't like all in encouraged.
Well, and also I heard, it's not like I didn't hear other people's opinions and viewpoints or feel their judgments
Right.
and expectations.
Yeah.
And what about your kids? Where are they going? And shouldn't they be properly socialized in school or
Yeah.
this or that?
Even when you were 3, Amy was in kindergarten. That was the year before I started homeschooling. And I especially remember I would carry you around a lot because when I put you down, you would scream and cry. You didn't want to walk. And somebody said to me one day, he's too old to be carried. He should be walking. And I made the mistake of believing them. And I put you down, and we're in the hallway. Amy's in her kindergarten class at the end of the hall, and you're just screaming. And it wasn't until years later that I realized you were probably in pain. You had growth hormone deficiency, which wasn't diagnosed for another couple of years from then. But most likely you were in pain. And that's why it wasn't a matter of, well, somebody else said something to me about a power conflict that you and I were having. And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to figure my son out.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what he needs and what he wants. And there was another conflict. I probably intuitively, if I had listened more carefully, would have known what you needed. But because I was listening at the same time to other people, I didn't give you what you needed. I didn't understand you.
I don't remember that far back, but I remember maybe more like 5 or 6 times where I was very upset and you were very upset and you would tell me like that I'm not communicating and I need to communicate. And I remember going off on my own and going, what does that mean? I don't know what to do. I don't even know what that means. But you try, like, your attempt to understand me was the best you could do, but
Yeah.
for sure it was hard to understand what I was doing or experiencing.
Yeah.
And I remember other people having problems with me. Like if other kids' parents were taking care of me for a time, at the end of it, they would be fed up and telling you, Jesse is angry or grumpy or has these problems. And I would be often left feeling really ashamed and confused. It's a vague memory, though. I don't think about that much. Maybe we can go a little earlier. So because I had my health problems early on. I had growth hormone deficiency. We didn't know until I was 5. What about while you were pregnant? I was your second. And your first pregnancy went pretty smooth, despite being a C-section birth. And when you were pregnant with me, up until, we could talk about Shasta, up until that, was it pretty good?
Yeah. Yeah, I loved being pregnant. Both times.
So how far along?
When Shasta died?
Yeah.
So when I was about 7 months pregnant.
Maybe explain who Shasta is.
Yeah. I was 7 months pregnant, and we had just moved to a small town from the city, like a long ways away, 11-hour car ride. And so moving is kind of stressful. And we had this small dog named Shasta that was my baby before I had babies. So she was 6. Amy was 4 and you were 2. Or no, Amy was 2 and you were 7. You were still...
I was a fetus.
Yeah. And we had family come to visit, and their dog killed our dog in the backyard, and it was a nightmare, and I was having nightmares afterwards. I couldn't sleep. I cried myself to sleep. So there was a huge traumatic stress while you were not even born yet. And you and I've talked about it before, that we wonder if that probably had some impact on you.
Yeah, the research seems pretty solid. Stanislav Grof, when the LSD research in the 70s got outlawed, he created holotropic breath work, and thousands of people would go through these experiences doing breath work, going into altered states, re-experiencing birth traumas, which, people think you don't remember things before like age 1 or 2, so no way are there memories of that. But to me, it's kind of silly to think no aspect of memory. It might not be the forms of memory that we recall easily, but our body stores memories.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like a no-brainer to me that your mother becoming kind of traumatized and depressed when you're 7 months. I don't know.
In vitro?
Yeah,
I don't know.
when you're not born yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense to me that would have
Yeah.
an effect.
I mean, they talk about generational trauma. Like, we still carry trauma from when our parents or grandparents or whomever might have been in a war, or
yeah,
whatever they may have experienced. So yeah.
And I was a C-section birth as well.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 months later, I was born.
Mm-hmm.
On time, like I was right on time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit heavy.
You were 8 pounds 10 ounces. Pretty big. You were in the more than 90th percentile, because they put you on a little chart, and then by the time you were 5, you weren't even on the charts anymore. You were like the minus 20th percentile or something like that. So you had fallen right off the growth chart.
Yeah. So I was 5, and you just saw that my growth was very slow.
Yeah, I noticed it before you were even a year old, because they were doing regular health checks and weights and lengths, and they just told me that, oh yeah, it's just an anomaly. He'll be fine. He'll catch up, whatever. And I just kept pursuing it until finally at 5 years old, you had the diagnosis. And
Mm-hmm. So we lived in Washington.
yeah, we started the process in Canada, and then that doctor, I guess he was an endocrinologist, sent some of your preliminary results to an endocrinologist at Children's Hospital in Seattle. And so that's where the final diagnosis took place.
Okay. Yeah, I remember a trip to Seattle with you. So I was 5 for that trip to Seattle?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I have very fond memories. We brought some board games.
Mm-hmm. 'Cause
Crazy Eights.
Had to stay overnight because it was a long days of testing.
Yeah.
I had to give you some medication and then take some blood and then give you some more and then take some blood, and
I think I watched,
can't even remember it all now.
2 Home Alone movies while there was a needle in my hand.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, wow. That's like one of my earliest significant memories, I think, is that trip. And it was a positive memory, oddly enough. I don't know how much I understood about what was going on.
You were getting lots of attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. From me, from everybody in the family, but also doctors and nurses, and yeah.
And then I was diagnosed, and for 10 or so years, was on growth hormone therapy, putting a needle in my belly.
Yeah. Yeah, and the first year, once you started taking the growth hormone, the first year was catch-up growth, so then you grew so much in that first year on it that you were caught up to where you're supposed to be. which was normal. That's how it's supposed to be. And then basically from then on, it was maintenance.
They
because
kept me right near the mean.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Because you didn't have enough growth hormone, and you weren't producing enough on your own to maintain growth. And they just said it was an idiopathic, meaning we don't know why it happened.
I was idiotic?
Yes, basically. Idiopathic, some kind of pituitary gland issue that prevented you from making enough growth hormone. But then once you turned 18, they consider that you have enough. But we always thought, okay, so this is one hormone. And to me, there's a lot of different hormones, and they all kind of work together and interact. And so it made sense that you were kind of cranky.
Yeah.
It made sense that it wouldn't just affect your growth. It's got to affect other parts of you.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So there had to have been some pain. There had to have been some emotional or, just chemical imbalances.
Yeah.
That
Could have
contributed
to depression later.
Yeah.
I never felt, emotionally, I never felt bad about having it. I felt just kind of like, oh, I have this interesting, unique thing, which maybe made me more comfortable being different.
Yeah.
I don't know. Definitely, I've always been a strange kid, and when I finally did end up going back to public school, because I went to kindergarten, and then a little bit of grade 3, but mainly grade 8 is when I went to public school again, and I was still a magician. So Dad and I were performing shows together most weekends, and what was I in grade 8? Like 13 or something?
Probably, yeah.
So I still did magic for a couple more years, and at school I tried not to be the magic guy. Once one person found out, everyone found out. And so everyone wants to see a magic trick. And I sort of was reluctant because I knew other young magicians through the magic club who they were the magic guy at school. And that was the whole thing after that. Now they were the magic guy and had to do magic all the time. And they were okay with that. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to always be heckled and bothered.
Yeah.
But then I got heckled and bothered just as much for being unwilling to show them. Mm-hmm. And some kids were annoyed at me. And
it's amazing how one thing can make your identity in high school, hey?
Mm-hmm.
One thing, and that's who you are now.
Right.
And that can, follow you for the rest of your life. It can be really damaging.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. People get one label put on them or whatever. So, yeah. And I made some good friends. I got bugged by some kids, but I made a good friend circle, and school went okay for me. But
and at that time in my life, so I was working full time. I had kids, teenagers, and I was a pretty bad teenager. So I swore that I was going to do things differently. I was going to be more on top of it. My mom was pretty innocent and didn't realize what I was up to. I was going to be on top of it, but still my kids were doing things that scared me. Drinking, partying, sneaking out of the house at night. And at the same time I was going through menopause, and I didn't know it and I didn't understand it, and it was doing wrecking havoc with my body and my mind. I had anxiety. I couldn't focus on my work. And then at work, we had a couple of suicides. And then both my mom and my dad died. And this was all in a very short period of time, like maybe, I don't know. I don't even want to speculate, but 5 to 10 years of all of this going on and me not really understanding it. And then burning out at work. I can just, the gradual, I loved the job. And then there was all this stuff happening in this gradual, I hate this place. But not knowing why and what happened and just not understanding it all. And then I found a lump on my breast, and I started getting tested. So I didn't know yet whether it was cancer. but I was seeing a counselor through work, and I told her that I found a lump and I hope that it was cancer and I hope that I die. And I was shocked that even that came out of my mouth, but that's when I guess I realized too how depressed I was. But then I got the final diagnosis, started
Both of your parents were gone
both
by
my
then.
parents had died, yep. And so I started treatment, and I started so I wasn't working anymore. I was off on disability to go through my treatment, which was going to be at least a year long. And then people just came out of the woodwork being so kind to me, and that in itself was healing. But then I started journaling. I journaled all through my treatment, and then I started that writing course and painting. And so it's almost 5 years since my cancer diagnosis, and the 5 year mark is when people really start to celebrate that you know, you're past that mark. The likelihood of it coming back anytime soon is pretty doubtful, so it's something to celebrate. But that 5 years has been some of the best years of my life, because they've been all about healing, all about doing the things that Donna wants to do, Donna needs. And
so let's talk about the last 10, because first your father passed away and you couldn't keep painting.
Yeah.
And you were on your way to visit your parents when you got the news. And he wasn't that old.
It's an 11-hour drive to get up to where they live. So we were about 3 hours into the drive when I got the phone call.
So I remember the first time hearing he had a heart attack when we lived in Nevada.
He was 60, maybe 65 then, his first heart attack.
So I was 9, probably 8 or 9. Heard that Grandpa had a heart attack, and that was my first encounter with a loved one having something so scary happen. I remember being scared about that.
Always a sensitive soul, you.
Was that scary for you?
It's funny because I really think that I learned all through my growing up years and until I got really sick, to suppress my emotions. So I had to be strong, and I had to not, even though I didn't, obviously, you never can fully suppress I think it came out in anger, any emotions that I did have. But when my dad had his heart attack, I think I was protected from a lot of it. My family didn't tell me a lot because I was so far away. No, I can't remember feeling really upset or worried.
Okay.
I probably did, but I can't really remember.
And his health was pretty stable overall after that for a long time.
Yeah, he looked after himself pretty good. And then, he was just out in the bush hunting, and they finished hunting, got in the truck, and he just slumped over and died one day. And that was the way he wanted to die. So even though that was shocking and it was horrible to lose my dad, he had always said that he didn't want to be old enough to be in a home where he was being looked after and had dementia or something like that. He wanted to be in the bush. And he actually said to more than one person, if I get to that point, please take me out in the bush and shoot me. And he also said, I want to die before my dog, because he loved his dog so much. That dog, we teased him. We teased him that he treated that dog better than he treated us kids. But he loved him, and so he died before his dog, and he died in the bush. Basically, went the way he wanted to. But he was only 74. And then 18 months later, my mom got cancer, and your grandma got cancer and died 3 weeks after her diagnosis.
And
but
she had cancer already twice?
no, just once.
Just once?
Yeah. But she had that autoimmune disease, and that was really the cause of her cancer, because it caused a issue with her esophagus, and then eventually you can develop esophageal cancer because of that, and I believe that's what happened to her. But when she found out that she had cancer and that it was terminal, we were all in the hospital together, and she said, "I'm not afraid to die." And she said that numerous times as she was dying, as she was actively dying in the 3 weeks it took. She was pretty amazing. But she also had, she'd volunteered for the Cancer Society and with hospice for many, many, many years. And so she knew about death. She knew what it looked like.
She'd been beside people while they died?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing that she wasn't afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Grandpa wasn't afraid?
No, I think Grandpa was afraid. Yeah.
Oh.
But I don't think he had time. He didn't know that he was going to die.
Yeah. That's why he wanted it to happen that way.
Yeah, partly.
To not have to stare it in the face.
Yeah. And Grandma was 74 as well. Oh, she would have turned 74 just a few days later. So they were both 74 when they died. She was 17 and he was 19 when they got married.
Yeah.
She wasn't even 18 yet when she had her first baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 50 some years of marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And really a great parents, unconditional love. Dad was an alcoholic, so that put a damper on things, especially in the first 14 years of my life.
Yeah.
My mom obviously had longer dealing with his alcoholism. He was a good drunk, but he was a binge drinker, and she never knew. She had to pick up the slack with most things. And so he quit drinking, though, when I was 14, and he didn't drink again until just before he died. Mm-hmm. And then we don't know why he started up again.
Yeah. I've thought he must have had pain or something.
Yeah.
Leading up to then.
I think so. And he was afraid. I think he knew that something was wrong. Some people have said, somebody said that maybe he had a mini stroke and he wasn't really thinking as clearly. It's hard to say why.
Okay, so I wanted to take you back to review a bit of the last 10 years because I remember when he died, I didn't feel much right away. I loved them so much. They were incredible people. Always felt close to the place that they lived. I was born where they lived and I felt close to them. Wish I was closer. I wish I was older to more fully take in all that he had to offer. He was an outdoorsman. He knew a lot of birds. He knew a lot of trees, animals, and he just loved being out in nature. He would take us out on his four-wheeler, and he took us panning for gold a little bit, and I just would have soaked so much more in if I knew.
Mm-hmm. Oh, me too.
Yeah. But then I think I was in a phase where I thought, well, I've contemplated mortality. I'm this deep thinking young guy and I've thought about all this and it's inevitable, and so I was cut off from my emotion. I thought when I was in my teenage years, I thought I can bear anything. Physical pain sounds difficult to deal with, but anything mentally, nothing's painful. I was very delusional about that, and so I didn't experience grief right away. but I knew obviously that the rest of the family was experiencing grief. And I had some, but I felt more, I thought I was more at peace with all of it. And then when Grandma was ill and we went to the hospital, I remember knowing this is goodbye. That I think maybe I was feeling more by then. But I still felt like I was one of the family members who kind of was still more at peace, understanding the situation and understanding her decisions, knowing that she was a wise person, and accepting it, and people having a difficult time with it all, because obviously it's all incomprehensibly difficult. So she died, and you must have immediately, well, you were right there with her in her final moment. That's probably the only time you've experienced that.
Yep. Yep. And I'm really grateful for it. I wish I'd understood more about what to expect, because I was scared a few times, and I wish that I wasn't. I wish that I was just that peace and comfort for her, which I hope I was anyways, but I feel like I could have been more if I really understood it. But I think it's sad that we don't talk about it, that we don't learn more about it in our culture, and it's such a mystery. Even though every single person dies, we will all die at some point. So why don't we talk about it more and prepare for it more? And she was so ready. It was amazing. It was a huge gift from her to us that she could let go so easily. It made us so much easier on us. And when she actually died, she smiled. It was incredible. Yeah. I miss her. I miss them both a lot. It's hard to believe they're not here anymore.
I can't believe it.
No.
I can't believe that anyone's going to not be here anymore one day.
Yeah, and so when you get irritated with someone that you love, that's close to you, I actually, that's what I often think about. I think, okay, what if they could be gone tomorrow? What if I just get over myself and and just love them? Because we all can be irritating and do stupid things, say
flawed.
Stupid things. Yeah.
Or maybe it's not flawed. It is what it is. The world is what it is, with us included. So I've always felt pretty close to the topic, and I agree, I wouldn't say it's strange, but it's the fact that we don't think about it mostly and don't talk about it. It's not strange because it's so uncomfortable and mysterious. It's the greatest unknown. It's the unknown at its maximum. And then of course we have our beliefs, and that there's a variety of beliefs, and some people are rigidly attached to their beliefs, and some people aren't. And so to me, it's always been the way to put things in perspective, knowing that my time is limited. And I feel so much more in touch with that than I think most people are. I feel time passing me by, and sometimes it feels slow, and sometimes it feels fast. 10 years, whoa, 10 years in the blink of an eye. But then each year is so full and so drawn out. So there's so much, and yet it's so sudden. And it could be any time. I don't know if I'll be 90 or 35. So I'm trying to live fully because of that perspective, knowing that the present moment is all I have, and any opportunity I don't take is gone. So can we talk a bit about, there's two sides of this that I want to talk about, because you said that in the past 5 years it's been some of the greatest period of your life. So I want to get to that, but I don't want to skip the grief. So can we talk a bit about processing grief? How are we supposed to deal with the incomprehensibility of it?
Well, I guess for me, with the loss of my parents, I'm so grateful that I could be sad to be missing such amazing people. I'm so grateful that I had them in my life. How lucky am I that I had amazing parents that I'm so sad that they're gone, and who went in ways that just made sense for them. It seems like maybe you just make sense. Maybe that you just have to try and make sense out of things, and that's how some people grieve. You process it all by thinking about it and trying to make sense out of it. And for me, being grateful.
So somehow you can hold that, whatever grief is, in the same moment that you can hold gratitude.
Yeah. But that's, I'm talking about my parents. There's all kinds of other trauma or tragedies that happen that I haven't experienced, that I can't speak for.
Right.
So, I have no idea what it would be like to lose a child, to lose a husband. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I can only...
Everything's new.
Yeah. I don't know how I would process that kind of grief. Hopefully somewhat in the same way, like I'm really grateful to have had them in my life, but that seems pretty... I don't even know what the word is. That seems pretty...
Is not sufficient to someone who's in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone who's in the middle of it, there's no erasing what they're going through.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It's like so heavy and beautiful at the same time.
But like, there's lots of trauma that you have throughout your life. Everybody has it. And I believe for me, I went through a lot of stuff. We can't even talk about it all here, but I went through a lot of stuff growing up, and I feel like it finally culminated in getting sick, because I didn't process much, and I didn't know how to, and it was all kind of stuck inside. And getting sick was what had to happen to open me up.
Yeah.
And let it go and let it out, and then learn to process it and heal.
So when you got sick, you thought maybe you wanted to die. Did that last a long time?
I don't think it did, actually. I think from that I realized, I've been depressed for a really long time. Like more of a low-level depression, but that got worse and worse and worse and worse, to that point where I was having suicidal ideation, they called it. And once I said that, though, even out loud to my counselor, I think is when I started healing. And especially when I got the breast cancer diagnosis, is like, oh, that's a bit of a shock. Do I really want to die? Oh, shit. Yeah, no, I don't want cancer. I don't want to go through chemo. But it gave me a big opportunity to stay home and be quiet and learn and heal and grow. And I wish we didn't have to go through that to get to that place where you know that that's what needs to happen. Like, I wish I see younger people learning that way younger and way sooner in their life, and that's a great thing. I see you learning and growing far earlier. Well, I think it's just more prevalent in our society too, for a lot of young people to be learning this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, we live in a new era for, I don't know, spiritual seeking. I mean, narratives have broken down, belief systems are broken down more than ever because we're in touch with the entire globe. I certainly couldn't make sense of trying to hold on to the version of Western Christianity that was taught to me in Sunday school, and so then you have to seek something else.
Yeah.
And now we have the internet, and we have any book that's ever existed, I can access it. So you regained your will to live. And you went through treatment, and you had a lot of support. And treatment was many waves of pain and discomfort and scary, but why have these last few years been so great?
Partly because I had fallen into such a deep depression that I didn't feel loved, and I felt like even those people that acted like they loved me were just acting. They were just trying to make themselves feel better or whatever. I don't know. But when I got cancer and all the ways people showed me that they did love me, just completely opened my eyes. I was shocked. Oh, I am important to people. I am loved. I don't know why I got so deeply depressed that I stopped believing that anybody loved me. What was the question?
Well, you've learned so much. Like, in these past few years, I've seen you transform on a pretty deep level.
Yeah, I think that I've realized, one of the biggest things that I realized is that I have to do what matters to me. And you matter to me, and my husband matters to me. Those people that I love matter to me, so I want to do things for them because they matter to me. But I also want to do what matters to me and deep inside, and I want to create. I want to be with my family. See, I didn't even want to be with family. I didn't want to socialize at all. I wanted to stay home in my own little cocoon. Now I love getting together with everyone. It's completely different. It's like a veil just lifted. And that's not to say it's always like that. Like the veil comes down sometimes, here and there. Um, but way, way more, it's up, and I'm happy, and I want to do things, and I want to explore and adventure and live life.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard it said that the opposite of depression is expression. And something inhibits a depressed person from being able to express themselves. They can express what they're expected to express some of the time, just to live up to expectations and obligations. But like you said, that doesn't come from a place of like presence with yourself, right? So
Um, I love being by myself still. I like to, like I said, I love to socialize and whatever, but I love to be alone. I love to journal or write or read and paint and do all those things by myself.
mm-hmm.
So I guess I've learned to love myself.
Yeah. So in loving yourself, you're more free to create
Yeah.
or to do what
I'm really
matters to you.
uncomfortable saying that. As soon as I say that, I feel like, oh my God, that sounds ridiculous. I love myself.
But it's so people get all hung up on that, meaning like you think highly of your. It's like an ego trip.
Mm-hmm.
But like you sleep when you're tired, you eat when you're hungry, you take care of yourself, and if you don't, things don't go well.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you hate yourself, then you don't even take care of yourself, and that's not good for anyone else either. So I think self-love gets kind of mixed up.
Yeah.
And different, and there is like spiritual self-love that I think is narcissistic. People can get into that mode where it's like, oh, I'm gonna love myself, and then it's all about all these positive affirmations about how great you are or something, but that's not at all what you're talking about.
No, I care about myself enough. Like that little girl who who held so much shame for how she acted as a teenager, especially all the things that she did. I lived with so much shame over that for so many years, and that at least is gone now. That was a little girl who needed her mom. She needed nurturing her, you know, and I could do that for her now. But I care for myself, so I try and eat healthy and exercise and sleep and do all the things that somebody who cares about their own body and themselves will do. It's hard though because we live in a society that pushes all the unhealthy things on us. So, and they taste good or they feel good or in the moment.
Yeah, a lot of coping is encouraged because excuses or victimhood is sort of encouraged.
I've worked really hard at getting better by doing all those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still finding out how to do it, but I'm finding a new place with that. And like healing my back. There's still pain on the other side now than before, which is insane. What? Like, so for 12 years, pretty much 12 years, there was pain on the left side of my upper back mostly in one spot. And it wasn't until the past couple of years I gave myself permission to actually tell people how bad it was. Like I'd say I'm in pain, but no, it was like after a long day of certain types of movement or too much sitting in a car or whatever it is, it would be like a rock is lodged inside my back, a jagged rock, or like someone's pushing a little knife. Like that's pretty bad. Like if it wasn't for the fact that it would give me actual damage, I would have demonstrated to people. Here's what it's like. But I didn't want to do actual damage. But now that spot on the left side's gone. Every once in a while I sort of feel something dull there, but the sharp pain's gone. The spot that feels all stuck and tight and like something's locked in place, gone. And the right side has some stuff going on, maybe still like 70% the amount of discomfort some of the time. Sometimes I'm on a walk, I'm like, oh, my pain's 0 out of 10. So recently I was thinking, for years I've said, if I heal this back pain, there's nothing else I would ever celebrate more. Like, selfishly so, like, but it's because I've learned to care about myself. I've let go of all this heavy expectation and obligation and realized, Jesse, this is severe pain. And so I said, like, I'll be yelling on the rooftops if this heals. And I've told people, like, don't think it's better until that happens. Don't think it's gone away until I'm screaming on the rooftops in celebration. And I will. And so recently I've realized, I almost thought about getting a tattoo there. I thought of getting Excalibur, the sword that's stuck in the stone, King Arthur's sword. Now I have concerns about tattoos affecting the fascia and stuff, so I'm not going to do it. But I am in possession of King Arthur's sword now. Like that's, if I actually was able to access this mythological sword from the ancient past, that would be as cool. Like other people would be like, how the hell did you get this mythical sword? And I'm like, yeah, you don't see it, but I have, that's how incredible it is. And all these years I've been smoking weed almost daily, except for like one time I took a 7-month break, or I took a few weeks here and there. And if I quit weed, I would feel more inclined to have some beers or whatever. And smoking weed, then you also want to eat a lot more junk food, and you'll do all these things, and you just sort of excuse it and justify it because life's uncomfortable and it's temporary anyways. So you get sort of bitter about it. And now, it's only recently that I've stopped smoking weed again. But it's not like previous times where I'm like trying not to, or I have to make some strategy to not do it. It's just like, I'm so stoked. I didn't always want to be getting high. I wanted to numb myself. But I'd be frustrated because my mind would be slowed down and my social ability would be gone. Like if I was out, unless I'm with friends, even with friends, I'd just be less talkative and way more introverted. I'm already an introvert, so I'd just be introspecting. That's not a great life, really. It's not a great trajectory to be on. You don't get to take all the opportunities that come your way, and you don't get to be sharp enough to run a weekly podcast. You don't get to do a lot of these things that I'm on the path to do now. And now it's just like, I don't even want to.
That's so interesting because for me with alcohol, for so many years, that alcohol was also a part of my, well, like going through menopause, having teenagers, losing your parents, all those things at once. I was using alcohol to numb and having an autoimmune disease where I felt like crap most of the time. That was in the evening, I'd drink a bottle of wine, and that was my way of feeling better just for a little while and then feeling crappy again in the morning. But it was almost 2 years ago that I stopped having alcohol, and same sort of thing. Like it wasn't hard. I wasn't purposefully quitting. It just all of a sudden clicked that was not how adding to my health regimen at all.
Yeah.
And I had already stopped, like, since I got cancer, I'd already stopped doing the wine at night kind of thing. But I would drink when we were with other people. And then I just thought, I don't really like this. It doesn't make me feel good. I don't like how I talk because I'm not me. I'm not exactly me, even after 1 or 2 glasses of wine. And I want to be exactly me. So, yeah, it's almost 2 years since I even had a drink.
Amazing. Congrats.
Thanks.
I think for people listening to this, okay, there's lots of our personal story and probably some insights, whatever someone might have extracted from it. But, people struggle with addiction. They struggle with comparing themselves to others. They struggle with pain. They struggle with shame and guilt. They struggle with just generally feeling not good enough, whether it's for this person or that person, or to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. So it's kind of funny to me, like, you could ask, how do you stop comparing yourself to others? Or how do you get over addiction? How do you get over shame and guilt? How do you deal with pain? How do you deal with grief? And the answers are so non-prescriptive. There's not like some thing you can write half a page and it just transfers to someone else's mind and they got it. But there are answers. So it's interesting. It's like both of us have discovered a lot of these answers.
Mm-hmm. But it just doesn't come overnight. It's taken years to, because a lot of these things were ingrained. Then you have to you have to reroute your neural pathways in many ways. And I've done so many things, counseling and nutrition and exercise and journaling and yoga and just so many things, meditation. And you just have to keep trying until you find what works for you. That's how, for me. That's how it's been for me.
Yeah. Well, if I was to talk to someone with the same back issue as me, I could tell them, there's probably emotional stuff that's being pushed out of your awareness. There's stuff like that that's probably true. Mm-hmm. And there's ways to investigate and find out. And I think a large part of it is it's going to be uncomfortable. So it's like, I want to get rid of this discomfort. How do I get rid of the discomfort? And it's counterintuitive because you probably have to face even more discomfort temporarily.
Yeah.
So when you're on the other side of it, you can forget. Like, if I think about my pain at its worst, I had about 10% cognitive capacity because the pain is so distracting. Couldn't bring myself to do or focus on anything, basically. And you can lay on the ground and maybe it helps for a minute, but you're just in agony and you're exhausted, emotionally and physically exhausted. Mm-hmm. And someone tells you, you should face your repressed emotions. I would say some mean things to that person. So now I'm that person. And so I have to, I want to become more aware of how to reach someone who's been where I've been. Mm-hmm. Or people who've been where you've been. And to understand in a way that allows them to realize this isn't someone who's just sugarcoating a solution, right? It's tough work. Mm-hmm. It's tough work, and no human is immune or free from the facts of life.
No, and it's not linear. I've come a long way in not comparing myself to others, not being my worst critic, and wanting everybody to like me, and I've come a long way from those things. But those things are still a part of me. I still struggle with them, but I've come a long way. Mm-hmm.
Well, it sure is freeing when you love yourself in such a way that comparisons don't really matter much anymore, and you can go anywhere and express your real self, and realize that some people will love it and some people will get triggered by it. It'll trigger some people's wounds, and it's not you're not guilty because of that. It's so freeing, but yeah, I guess the journey there being so nonlinear makes it very hard to let someone who's earlier on in that journey feel like you're actually relating to them and not just coming from your place of feeling okay and trying to tell them they should just feel okay. But
Well, yeah. I mean, and they have to be ready. There's, a lot of people out there that are sick, really sick. They don't even realize it, how sick they are, and mentally or physically or whatever. And they would hear this and just think this is a bunch of gobbledygook because
well,
they're not open to it.
Anyone who's made it this far in this episode is resonating with something about the struggles and the human pain, and so hopefully, because you and I can't just give any easy answers, I think that our story, to anyone it resonates with, has little pieces of insight for them. So that's my hope for anyone tuning into this one. And also just down the road, if I achieve anything cool or make it, quote unquote, in any way, someone can know it wasn't just, they don't just see the end result. Someone can look back and hear about this, and maybe it'll help them be encouraged that whatever I do later is available to them too. And so if I stay alive a while and accomplish some stuff, then it was not without treachery and struggle.
Yeah.
But it's been worth it, even though at times when I was really depressed, I said, no matter how great life gets, Jesse, don't forget how bad this was. And I remember that still. But life is pretty cool.
It is. And it's really cool to have a son like you. And I can't believe you're my son. Like, I was just thinking that earlier, that you were just this cute little guy with these pudgy cheeks, and everybody just thought, remember when people would say, hello, sweetie, and you would say, I'm not sweetie, I'm Jessie.
Yeah.
But,
don't call me sweetie.
But you were so cute. You just were a little explosive. But I can't believe that was my little boy, and now this is who you are. This is who you've grown into.
It is very strange that a little infant, so dependent and barely able to speak, and even when you learn language, you're just mostly speaking things you've already heard said, can become this sort of free agent who goes and learns from all these other sources and becomes sort of something that's not what you taught them. And
yeah, and I thought I was teaching you as I was raising you, but you were teaching me, and you still teach me so much.
Well, I don't know how, but I'm glad that I can, and you telling me that encourages me that someone else might learn something from me. So, but I've had so many mentors. That's one thing I would tell people. Seek mentors. Whatever creative achievement you want, whatever healing you're looking for. There's people who are willing to be so generous if you show that you're willing to take it seriously and receive what they're offering with gratitude. I've just been amazed by how many people who've come into my life and just poured whatever they could into me.
Yeah. It makes me think of this woman that I was getting sort of counseling from. She is a breast cancer survivor, and she's got stage 4, so terminal breast cancer. And it was all through her body. But she does Western medicine, but she also does a lot of alternative stuff, like a lot. And she has one lymph node right now that is barely lit up on a CT scan or whatever scan she does. And she just taught me so much. But the biggest thing, I guess, that she taught me was how to change my thoughts. And I think that for me was key. To, when I'm having thoughts, they're just thoughts, they're not true, and I can change them to whatever I want them to be. That was the love and the changing your thoughts were two of the biggest things for me.
Okay. Yeah, not believing that all your thoughts are true or that they're you. That's a practice that is ongoing.
So she was a mentor to me that I still follow her. I don't get counseling from her anymore, but she's still doing great.
So how can people learn to change their thoughts?
I think that you need somebody to help you learn how to do that. I did. Or you can read, or look into. I think it's just cognitive behavioral therapy, isn't it?
I guess so.
Changing your thoughts. But you have to know and understand what it is you're doing, because I did see that counselor years ago who was doing cognitive behavioral therapy with me, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand what she was doing. She didn't really explain it to me, so I wasn't going home and doing my homework because I just didn't get it. It depends on who's teaching you, how you're learning.
Yeah.
So something has to resonate, and I think I just had to search and search until I found something that did.
We talked about doing a lot of journaling as well. Journaling, I think of it as the best metacognitive technology. So we have all these thoughts that are on autopilot, and we don't even have time, or we don't make time to step out of them and look at them. We're just in them. We're having them, or we feel like this is me. These thoughts, if I'm having thoughts, they must be true, because that's me.
Yeah.
That's the truth of me.
And they become overwhelming until you can sort of organize them on a page or somehow. Journaling is one of the best ways to do that.
Yeah. I had an experience on when I ate peyote cactus.
Jesse James. What?
Yes. I have done drugs.
You were grounded.
Well, so there'll be lots of people I bring onto the podcast who will talk about psychedelic related topics. But on this particular peyote trip, I should have had my little peyote cactus sitting here. But peyote, it's a very subtle sort of, it's mescaline is the active compound, which is much more gentle than, if anyone's experienced psilocybin mushrooms, they can turn you right inside out and be very intense and heavy, and they can be beautiful medicine, but peyote mescaline can be more subtle and still a very deep experience. But my last experience with it, one of my greatest insights I took away had to do with making friends with myself. Because I look at how I treat my friends and how I think about friends, and I like to see the best in people, and I like to understand where people are coming from. And if I have a judgment, I like to get behind that judgment and realize I don't see the whole situation and try to understand. And I like to support people. I like to tell people I'm proud of the progress you've made. I like to tell my friends, yeah, I believe you can do that thing you want to do. And wait a minute, I can talk to myself. And we do talk to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
In our thoughts, at least, we're talking to ourselves. So that peyote experience, I had this kind of voice in my head say, you can talk to yourself out loud. So sometimes even I'll be doing yoga or something and I'll say, thanks, Jesse. This is good for you. Thanks for doing this. And other things like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, it's okay. You can rest right now. You've been working. You're tired.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel guilty about slowing down. So, or, yeah, you've been smoking weed as a coping mechanism. And I know it's not the most optimal path. It's okay. I know why you're doing it. I understand. And then suddenly it's easier to step out of that identification with those thoughts. Of,
Yeah. I like that. I want to use that more.
You don't even have to eat the peyote. You can just...
Yeah.
It came from me, so... Well, I feel good about wrapping up on that.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully these mics and cameras were all working. Otherwise, my mother and I had a great chat.
Great conversation, yeah.
So
not very many moms and sons get to have a conversation like that, I don't think.
Cherish your parents and talk to them. Learn more about them.
Mm-hmm.
Let them learn more about you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Donna May.
Thank you, Jess. Thanks for communicating.
Yeah. And thank you for listening. Go check out donnamaypaints.ca to see all of my mother's artwork. And I'll see you on the next episode.